Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar organized by JetBrains. I'm Paul Everett, PyCharm Developer Advocate, and I'll be your host. The topic for today is a good one, Visual SQL Development with PyCharm. Our guest is Max Sobolevskiy, Product Marketing Manager for DataGrip, JetBrains IDE for SQL Development. Wait, you might say, I thought this was a PyCharm webinar. And it is. PyCharm Professional bundles DataGrip, which appears as the database tool window in PyCharm. DataGrip is pure freaking awesome magic, and it freaks people out when I demo it to them because some of them don't even realize they have it. Welcome, Max. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to show the cool things we have for those who have databases in their projects.
You got freaking awesome magic to show?
I hope so.
I will say it's a distinct displeasure to present along with you because you and I presented in New York. You went before me and you were fantastic. You are all in for a treat. This is really cool stuff to see. For today's webinar, Max is going to give a demo of the database side of things. Max, you're going to go first, and then I'll switch over to my screen to do some Python aspects in a Flask demo application. If you want to follow along, I pasted the repo URL in the GoToWebinar chat window. Let me bring that up real quick. It looks like this, github.com, JetBrains, PyCharm demos, and it is the one demo in this repo right now with instructions on what to do. All right, so with all of that set up for the webinar, I'd like to hand the mic over to Max.
I assume everybody can see my screen.
We look good.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So when you have your PyCharm open, it usually looks like this. What you can do, you can go to the View, Tool Windows, Database. And when you click this small option, you have wonderful database tool window on the right side. So maybe for some of you, it's a little bit unexplorable, but yeah, actually it is already there if you're using PyCharm Pro. So this is the database tool window, and actually you have your various data sources here. You can add the new data source. I already configured a couple of them, but you can add a new data source by pressing plus. So this is the list of databases we currently support. And this list is always increasing. And actually in the new version, which will be at 2019.3, we are going to release the support for MongoDB, which was a really requested thing. Everything I'm going to show you, I'll show you with the Postgres data sources, but mainly everything is available for every database we support. So this is the database tree, pretty much familiar for those who works with databases. Here you have different data sources, which you can put into folders. For example, this is the SQL Server folder. This is the Postgres folder. For example, if I want to replace my Docker SQL Server to a new folder, I just press F6, which is move to group. I create a new group. For example, SQL Server, new, I press OK, and yeah, this is my new group. If I want to place it into the existing group, again, F6, I choose this group, and it's here. But I will create a new one again. As in all other trees, you can actually search here. For example, if you have some tables in your huge list, and if you want to find them, for example, film category, you need just to type it here, and everything will be highlighted. So, for example, if I type film category, this is highlighted. But I can also use abbreviations, for example, if I'm searching for film category. So let's put our caret here. If I type just FC, it also will bring me to the film category. So the abbreviation is the very, very powerful thing among all our IDEs. When you want to complete something, to look for something, to find something, use abbreviations, they will help you. What else here? You can color your data sources. For example, this one, Postgres 11, this is my main data source. I can go to the color settings and press rows. And if I press OK, everything connected to this data source, this is my result set, I'll hide it. So the query console, the file with scripts to the data source, everything will be colored in red. So for example, if this data source is your production one, you can do this so you will never lose the context. For example, I create a new console where I create queries, and this panel is also red. So yeah, this is coloring, but I will delete the color because I don't like it. But anyway, that can be useful for those who have many similar data sources. Also, by the way, if you have your production data source, what you can do, you can go to the database properties And here, this is the small tiny checkbox, read only. So if you will check this one, you will not be able to update data or insert new data to a data source. Just PyCharm will not let you to do this. Okay, this is the database tree. Here you add different schemas to your data source if you want to see more of them, but I add just my user one. This is the console. So again, when you want to write a query, you right-click here, new console. So this is the console. Actually, this is the place where you write queries. The console is kind of a scratch file, a temporary file, which is attached to the particular data source. Here you can choose the search path for this particular console. Here you can just change the connection change the session for this console, and here you write queries. We at JetBrains, we always encourage people to use live templates for various tasks which are repetitive. For example, select is just a very common thing, and we encourage people to use live templates. If you press Command J, you will see the list of templates we have. For example, SEL, this is the live template for the select. If you press enter, the live template is open, and then you just input the table name. Yeah, and that's it. This is my first query, and it's done. Another way to use this live template, SEL, is just to type SEL and press tab. And again, and then you choose the table, and that's it. If you want to type insert, again, ins is a new live template, just an existing live template for the insert. You type ins, you press tab, you choose the table name, completion offers you the column list, so and then you are here, you put values. So again, live templates are code snippets which help you to do some repetitive things. You can add your own live templates. You go to preferences. By the way, we have search in preferences for those who didn't know about that. So live templates are here. I have many of them. This is the SQL section, and yeah, so this is the pre-built live templates from the IDE, but you can actually create your own ones and put the text you need to be expanded with different variables and so on. Okay, so this is a live template. This is my first select created. When I put my caret here, I press Command Enter, I run it, and I actually have the result here on the bottom. Here is the new thing we added in the latest version called services. And actually in services, you can see various connections for every data source and actually the time which this query took. This is select the wildcard from actor, result, everything is clear. Let's go further. Let's create a little bit more complicated query. So join, when I type join, what you can notice that we complete the whole thing for you. If you have the foreign keys properly created in your database, we will just complete join clauses for you. So it is really fast to create a little bit more complicated query with joins. What we recently introduced in the new version is the possibility to create joins by column names. For example, this is my temp schema where just, okay, let's drop these tables. I will create them from scratch. For example, I have temp schema which is empty. I add a new table name, okay, column 1, column 2, execute, it's here. I create a new table name, let's say 2, column 1, execute, yeah, so I have just 2 tables with column 1 here, and if I create a new query for that particular schema, select from table name, and then I type join, it will complete join for me. The whole thing, there are no foreign keys, but we just analyzed that, okay, since you have the same column names, maybe this join can help you. So yeah, that actually works from the latest version. Let's go back to our query. This is our a little bit complicated query with joins. I press Command Enter, I run it, I got the result. What you can do here, okay, first thing, by the way, you can always hide windows you don't need. Shift Command F12. This is the very important shortcut for any JetBrains IDE. If you want to concentrate on coding, if you want to concentrate on what you are currently doing now, Shift Command F12. Hide all the other windows, shows all the other windows. Hide, show. So I actually hide them. Okay, this is my query. This is the wildcard. Not a very good practice, for writing queries. And as usual, JetBrains IDE will help you here with Alt-Enter shortcut. This is one of the most important shortcuts in all our IDEs. It helps you to improve your code in different situations. For example, here you have a wildcard, Alt-Enter. You can just check what you can do here. And okay, PyCharm offers you to expand the column list. You expand the column list and you get the whole column list from the query. And notice that this column list is not only just from the table, but from all the tables with joins, and also it respects the conflicts. Because, for example, we have several film ID here, right? So if I will delete this FA, this film ID will be highlighted in yellow color, which actually means that, okay, there is some biggest column reference. That's why it was FA here. If I want to qualify this column again, I can press Alt-Enter, qualify, it offers me to qualify it with some alias. Okay, I'm here. If I want to qualify everything, I just select columns I need, press Alt-Enter, qualify, and everything is qualified with the things I need. For example, if you think that this FLS isn't very useful, you want to rename it, of course you can rename it as well. For example, Shift F6 on the FLS, and you can just type anything and put the new name for this alias. Let's say it will be F1. If you want to introduce the alias for the table, for example, here for actor we don't have an alias, you also can use Alt-Enter. Alt-Enter will help you again. Alt-Enter, introduce table alias, alias 1, that's it, you are here. So let's delete some columns, let's create another query. Again, I use live templates. What I also want to show you that, again, abbreviations can be used when you complete code. For example, here AI is the actor ID. So if you will type actor, it will also offer you the actor ID because of the context. But again, AI will define this column in an effective way. I can do something like that. OB goes for order by, AI goes for actor ID, and again, my new query is done. When you have two queries, and if you press Command Enter, it will show you whether you want to run this particular query or maybe you want to run the whole script. If you run the whole script, you obviously have two results. Some people really like this drop down, some people really don't like this drop down. If you don't like it, what you can do, you can go to Preferences, database, yeah, and here you have several execute actions. So the first one, execute action, is the default one with the shortcut Command Enter, and it asks you what to execute. But if you want to, for example, always run the smallest statement under the caret, if you choose this, and I press OK, and then I put caret here, I press Command Enter, it doesn't ask me, it just runs. But what I usually do, I leave this question here, and I use another execute action, which can be changed, of course. So I use, for example, smallest statement, I assign a new shortcut, execute to, for example, add keyboard shortcuts, for example, Control-Alt-Enter, OK, OK, and now if I press Command Enter, it offers me to choose, but if I press Control-Alt-Enter, it just runs it. So yeah, you can configure several execute actions, and depending on what you configured there, you can use like the action you want to use. By the way, if you have a subquery, let's create a subquery here. Sorry. Let's create a subquery. Yeah, by the way, it's also it's again yellow, and it tells me, okay, each derived table should have an alias, and I say, okay, introduce alias. The alias is a little bit stupid, but I will create my own one. Okay, I'm done. So if you have subquery, again, this chooser will offer you to run this particular query, maybe the small query, the subquery, or the whole script. If I run the whole script, I got the result. So if you have several queries, you got several results. If you want to name these results, that's also possible from the new version. So for example, here I can write a command, which is query2, for example. And here I write the command query1. By the way, our spell checker thinks that query1 is not the proper word, and it offers me to change it for querying or whatever. But if you will use the camel case, everything is fine. Okay, so I run 2 queries, and I got 2 tabs with the same names, just taken from the commands. So now this is the query 1 result, and this is query 2 result. Let me end this thing here, and to have it a little bit more sensible. So when you have 2 result sets, what you can do here, you can compare them. For example, you want to compare query 2 to query 1, you press this tiny button, compare with query 1, and okay, our diff viewer shows you which particular rows are mutual for these results and which rows are not mutual. So again, if you want to compare 2 result sets, just use this tiny button. Let's speak about some inspections we have in SQL. There are not so many, but there are. So we try to analyze the code in advance, and we try to help you to understand if something is wrong in your code. For example, this is the first name column. If I do something like that, it will become red because, okay, this column cannot be resolved, which actually means that we don't know this column. You don't have it in your database, so we analyze it. So if you see this red references, just pay attention to it. It means that maybe something is missing from your database. Another thing, if I will expand this column list here and expand the column list here, for example, if I will delete this first name column, that first name column becomes gray. It says, okay, there is a subquery item, but you never use this item. Another thing can be okay, I need the analyst here. Okay, great. If I will union with select from actor, my union will be yellow because, okay, it says that left and right operands should have the same number of columns, but you have 3 on this part and you have 4 in the wildcard. And if we will expand the wildcard, we will see, okay, yeah, usually we have 4 columns here, and if I will delete 1, everything should be fine. So we try to build various inspections and warnings to help you to understand that something is wrong. By the way, the one I really like, if you do something like that, PyCharm will say you, okay, this is very, very unsafe to do this kind of statements because you need to have where, otherwise you will truncate the whole table. So this is about inspections. Let's speak about navigation. So maybe you know that in PyCharm you have various types of navigation where you can go to the declaration of the class or of the variable, something like that. In SQL, you also have all these things. For example, if you have this actor table, if you press go to declaration, command B, in database world, it will show you the actor table in database tree. If you want to see the DDL, you can just press F1, which is the quick dock, and it will show the DDL of the table and the first 10 rows of this particular table. You also can use Alt F1, which is the show in pop-up, select in. So if I press, for example, database view here, it'll be always highlighted here. Also, there are some navigation options in settings. If I go to the database, and here you have 2 navigation things: prefer database view over DDL editor, or prefer data editor over DDL editor. For example, if I uncheck the prefer data editor over DDL editor, okay, if I'll check this one, uncheck the database view, my go to declaration will navigate me to the DDL editor. So depending on what you actually need, you can create various types of navigations. If you want to see the data of the table, I mean, if you want to see it quickly, F1 works usually, but if you want to go to the proper data editor, if you are on the actor table, you can press F4 and the data editor will be opened. So here you can just edit data or view data. It depends on your needs. And let's look a little bit closer on this component. This is data editor. I'll hide all the other windows. What you can do here? Here you can order. This is pretty obvious. Here you can write different filters. For example, if I want to see all the actors with first name like M, something like that, you press enter and the filter is adjusted. What you need to know that this is actually like you write the where clause. We create a new query, which you can see here. So we create a new query with where first name like M, and this query is sent to the database, and we got all the results. But there is another way to search for data on the client side. For example, if you press Command F, this is the text search, and you type something like Joan, and you filter rows, the text search will be applied for the page you currently have. So there is no query running or something like that. It just searches on the client side on the page you have. Of course, if you have only 10 rows on the page, this text search will respect only this page from of 10 rows. But if you have everything, you again press Ctrl F, you search, you can filter, you cannot filter, you can even use regular expressions if you want. So this is the text search by the table. By the way, what we recently introduced is that you have a full text search in the schema. You can just right click here, full text search. For example, you want to write all Johns. So here are queries which we will perform against your data source. You press OK. And yeah, it says that, okay, we have found Johns in actor and customer tables. If I double click on customer, I see the rows actually with the filter. And if I want to highlight my John, I again can use text search here, and all the rows will be highlighted. So let's go back to our actor table. This is about search. So this is the filter criteria. By the way, it has the filter history. So if you want to go back in time, it's also possible. So here is data, right? Here you can just add new data. For example, you can just type something like this, or even something like this. You can even copy your data and then paste it. So we can just do some small like Excel stuff. But if you want, these changes are local now. They are highlighted in blue color. It means that they are not in your database until you press this button, submit. Before you press this button, you can revert everything you need to revert. That's also possible. And by the way, I forgot to mention that you can even paste the CSV here. For example, I think I have CSV here. Yeah. So I copy this CSV. This is in my clip. It's in my clipboard now. And if I go to my actor table, I go here, I paste, and yeah, it's here. So that's also possible. For example, let's imagine I want to update only this James Nicholson. I select changes I want to revert. I revert, and then I press submit. Yeah, and now my change is in the database. Navigation. Command down will show me referencing rows. So for example, it tells you, okay, this is the film actor table, referencing table. I'm on James Nicholson, right? I press enter, and I see all the films where this James Nicholson is played. So it's number 6. If I choose, by the way, just referencing rows only, I see only referencing rows. So I know that, okay, James Nicholson was playing in this kind of films, 70. I press command down, and I see the 70 films. And I can go back. Again, from the film table, film actor, I see all 2 actors. This is not a very crowded film. So 6 are James Nicholson, and also 104. I press command down, and I see that, okay, Penelope Cronion was on the same stage with James Nicholson, something like that. So yeah, that's about foreign keys navigation. Obviously, it all works because you have foreign keys, because I have foreign keys in my own database. Okay, this is the toolbar. Let's go through toolbar, what it has. Paging, pretty clear, we already discussed it. Transaction mode, you can use manual transaction mode. If you use it, there is a commit button, which is actually the database level of commit. But I usually use auto mode because I'm okay with our submit level. This is our level. So this is a DDL button. You can go to DDL and you can go back. Pretty obvious. Compare, we already discussed it. This is the gear icon where you can transpose your table. By the way, that can be really, really useful if you have many columns. I don't have many columns here, but if I had, it will be useful. For example, by the way, let's create the query with lots of columns. We already did it, something like that. Ta-dam, ta-dam. Yeah, we hear it. So yeah, we have results here with many columns. Here, if I press transpose, I see all the columns in more handy way. And also what we can do, we can go to the column list, which is command F12, and now we can search here. For example, if I want to find original language ID, OID. Yeah, I'm here. Again, abbreviations will save my time. I press enter and I'm navigated here. So yeah, again, if you have many columns, command F12, column list helps you. Let's go back to our actor table. I was talking about this gear icon. Also, this is the session for this particular data editor. It means that when you update something, it will run in that particular session. And this is very, very important thing. Here is the list of formats you can export your data in. For example, what does it mean? SQL insert. If you choose that format, it means that you can just select any amount of data, press copy, and then go to the query console, press paste, and voila, you have a bunch of insert statements, which can help you to migrate your data to some other database. What else? Updates, pretty much clear. I copy, I go to my query console, I paste, and now I have a bunch of update statements. What I also have here, I have various text formats: HTML, Markdown, XML, CSV, JSON. For example, JSON, if I choose this, I press copy. I create a new Scratch file. For example, we can create Scratch files, which are temporary files. JSON, this will be a JSON file. I paste, here I am, I have JSONs. So again, there are many formats, and what is really important that these formats are actually scripts. So you can create your own format, you can adjust the existing one. To do that, you will press go to scripts directory. You will see that, okay, we have the scratches and constants in your project folder, and here you have JSON Groovy file, which is actually the piece of Groovy script. So you can adjust this script, you can create your own format if you are not okay with the one which is already there. And this format is not only about copying your data to clipboard, it's also about copying to file. For example, if I want to create a file with all this data, I just select everything or the rows I need, go to file, and then it'll create the JSON file with all my data. And this is also important button. This is the export. So for example, if you want to select this data, you press export, and you want to export this data to some other table. For example, I don't know, if I say public, this is my schema in Postgres 11, it will create a new table, actor 1, with actually data imported from that particular selection. So let's check. I hope it's there, or no. Maybe it was another. Okay, it exported not the selection, it exported the whole data, but perhaps it should export on the selection. Okay, now it exported the whole data. So again, if you want to export your result set to the new table, it's also possible. You can even drag and drop various tables between each other. For example, this is the address table. You can just drag and drop it to the same schema and address 1, okay, and now you have a backup of your table. So address 1, now I have a backup of the table. You can even go to some other data source. I hope that it's seen here. For example, I have the SQL Server city table. I can just drag and drop it to temp schema. It will create the DDL for me, the data for me. I press OK and OK, and now I have my Postgres city table. So again, this is about exporting table. Let's go back to our actor. I think I described everything connected to the data editor, and maybe you noticed, and now I want to pay attention that if I want to go back to the previous step, what I do, maybe you notice, Command E, recent files, very important thing. For example, if I close everything, and I go, okay, I want to go back, Command E. This is all tabs which were open before. Very important shortcut. I can reopen my table, I can reopen my query console. So and this will help you not to lose the context. Also, we have Shift Command A, which is recent locations. This is actually the part of code you were writing like several minutes ago. Let's talk about not losing your work. What else can help you? Local history. Every file, every text file you are writing in has its own local history. It's not about VCS, it's just a history. So you can see the history of any file. So if you know that, okay, 1 hour before I was creating a really genius query, you can find it here, revert, and now you are here. So I use this revision. Clipboard history, Shift Command V. There is a clipboard history. So everything you copy to the clipboard is actually saved here, so you will never lose your query. Query history. Everything you run is also put into this query console history. So if you run the query, it's already there. We also have a SQL log. I think it should be here. Yes, show SQL log in Finder. You'll actually see the database log file, which is just a text file with everything which were run from DataGrip internally, or your queries, doesn't matter, everything is here. So this is about not losing your work. Do I need to say that you don't need to press save? Everything you type in your files, everything is already saved. So you don't need to worry about that. So what else? I'm close to the end. What I wanted to mention, maybe this is the one last thing, that if you have the scripts in your folder, for example, I have various scripts, this is the Postgres scripts, and if you have big script files and you don't want to open it, sometimes it's very important that they are big, you don't want to open it and run it one by one. For example, this is the Postgres Sakila schema, and I hope I have an empty data source. Yeah, this is the Postgres public, the schema is empty. What you can do with this SQL file, you can just go to the context menu, run, choose the data source. Yeah, this is it's already chosen here, press OK, and this file will be actually run against your data source. I have some errors with the roles, but anyway, all the other thing is fine. So if you see some error, we go further, and now I think, yeah, I have all the tables, but they are empty. And if I want to put data, I choose this particular file, I press run. Again, this data source, I press OK, and now it fills my database with data. Let's wait a little bit until everything will be great. The script is quite big, but we are close to success. Ta-da-da-da. Yeah, so my data is here. So again, if you have various files, you can run them from the context menu. And if you want just to open any file, for example, this is the query SQL. I don't know what's inside. Okay, this is just a simple query. So if you run it, you can use which particular schema you want to use, which particular session, and you just run it, and you have the output. So again, if you just open the SQL file, it can be run just from, the script can be run just from this particular file. I'm sure that I forgot about many things, but I hope it anyway was very useful. I hope Paul will continue and show you how this all is working with the PyCharm, with the Python code exactly. And if you have any kind of questions, don't hesitate to tweet at us at DataGrip or just write at datagrip@jetbrains.com. I'll be happy to receive any kind of questions, or just after this webinar, it's up to you. Thank you for your attention, and I hope Paul will continue.
Max, you make it so difficult to present after you. That was fantastic. There were 5 times where I laughed out loud at what you were showing because it was so unbelievable. We have a number of questions for you if you have some time.
Yeah, of course.
All right. First one, you said something that you probably should have shown. Maybe you showed it when I was answering questions. Did you cover refactoring?
Oh, yeah, just a small one. I cover refactoring when you refactor the alias. For example, again, I can repeat, you can rename any kind of alias. But if you want to rename the database object, that's also possible. For example, this is the actor table. If I press Shift F6, it offers me to rename this table. And if I press Act and U, it'll generate the script for renaming. And if you are okay, you can just preview what will actually happen, because many things will be renamed because this actor table is used in many scripts. But okay, for example, if I'm okay with this, I press do refactor and it will rename my table, and I hope it will be reflected here. Oh, it does. It's not reflected. Maybe I refactored something. Let's check actually. Artifact one showing database view. Okay, yeah, that was my Postgres 9 data source. Yeah, so my table is now renamed in my database and in my query.
And it will go through all the .SQL and consoles and everything in your project and rename it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, on to some questions. Number one, perhaps you want to make some statements about what is the one ticket in UTrack that has the most votes?
So I think the most votes is about NoSQL support. This is the general ticket.
Correct.
And the most popular database was MongoDB, and we are actually building the support, and it will be released. And I think the second one is Redis support, and yeah, maybe it will come later. So everybody can actually check. We have open issue tracker. So I don't actually remember, but I think maybe Redis support is one of the most popular now. But okay, the next thing is MongoDB to come, and then we will just think.
Yes, and in fact, as you were talking about Redis, we got a question about Redis, so I can say yes, Redis. But the question was about MongoDB. We also got a question. I know the answer, but I thought I'd give you a chance to talk about it a little bit. RDS, Amazon RDS.
Okay, we after adding MongoDB, we don't have any particular plans for adding new support. And I have to say that in the last year, or maybe the last year and a half, we added many databases, and we want to take a small pause in supporting new things.
Good idea. But as far as like cloud databases and stuff, you have support for connecting over SSH, including through kind of jump host bastion things, right?
Yeah, of course. If you host your supported databases in Amazon, everything is possible, of course.
Okay, on to some of the other questions. Is it possible to auto-generate aliases for columns, a multi-join scenario like you showed?
Yes, I know that we can generate the alias for tables, but let's actually check. So we can go to database. Yes, data views. Okay, I cannot find no, I cannot find this particular setting. Alias. Okay, so there's a possibility to automatically add aliases when completing table names.
Okay.
And if I check it, for example, it will be something like that. Like, yeah, the alias. But what about columns, column names? I don't think so. Yeah, we don't have the automatic alias for columns names. But there will be an action, and I think it will be in the new version to introduce the alias for the columns. Now we cannot do this. So, for example, if you want to introduce the alias, as I showed you, you have this on the table, but you don't have this action on the column name. But I think it will be released in the new version. But no automatic alias. And if somebody really needs it, please create a ticket, because I even think that we don't have one.
All right, let's see. This is one, I think the answer is no, but I'll give you a chance to talk about some of the alternatives. You've already shown them. Can we create a table with a tool that gives an option to populate it with some test data, sort of wizard driven? So you've shown SQL files for inserting data. You've shown dragging and dropping JSON and CSV and stuff like that, right?
Okay, but the question is, can we use the wizard for creating tables?
Right, right.
We actually don't have any kind of wizards. So maybe we have the UI for creating tables. If you press new table, and I already showed it, so there is the small UI, so you can put columns, keys, indices, foreign keys, whatever, and you see the script which will be generated, and afterwards it will be executed in the database. Or you can open it in editor anyway. So this is the UI for table creating. But I have to say, we are strongly thinking about completely reworking this UI. It's a little bit outdated. So if you will find some not handy things, please report it to us, because it will be really useful for us while we are remaking it. So there is no wizard, but there is the UI.
Great. All right. This is one I have no experience at all with this. Can the tool help me with ETL flows?
I don't know what is ETL flow.
All right, so neither one of us can help on that one. Does the tool give us any capability of masking the data to desensitize it?
No. Unfortunately, there's no possibilities like that.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a question about all these great features across all of these products, PyCharm, DataGrip, other JetBrains products. Is there a cheat sheet of keyboard shortcuts? In the help screen of PyCharm, in the help menu of PyCharm, there's a link to a cheat sheet. Most of the key bindings that apply in PyCharm probably have a key binding in all of them, but DataGrip, Max, do you have many actions that are unique to DataGrip?
I don't think we have any actions which are unique to a DataGrip.
Okay. All right. So that cheat sheet that is available in the help menu should probably be enough. Can you color cells by value?
No. Now it's possible. We do have a ticket and we know about this. So maybe the question is not about the value, but about the type. of the fields. And if the question is about this, yeah, we don't have it, but there is a ticket. Please comment there and share your use case. Perhaps someday we'll add it, but now it's not possible.
Right. ETL is extract, transform, load. It's workflow for taking data from one place to another and doing transformations. Maybe that's like MPS.
So yeah, I really don't know.
Yeah, that's not our
So the author of the question, please write to DataGrip at JetBrains.com, share this information, and I'll check with our developers and I'll answer you in a better way.
So there was a question about, other than MongoDB, what other non-SQL? And I think really your point is valid that it's MongoDB. We're not going to be chasing a whole bunch of other databases. In particular, it's kind of JDBC driven, right?
Yeah, of course, you already can work with every database which has JDBC driver. But if we say we don't have support, it means that we don't highlight the syntax in a proper way, and maybe some things like import can be broken, something like that. So basic functionality, of course, works, but support, is about enhanced way of working.
There's a question that's Python specific, so I'll take it. Is there a way to get query results into a pandas data frame other than downloading the CSV and using pandas for reading the CSV? Nothing in our tools, because that's more of a Python question than a IDE kind of question. The Python runtime still needs to be able to do that, but we do have a lot going on with big data in general, so perhaps keep an eye on that space. And on to the last major question. Are there any major differences between what you just showed, the database tool in PyCharm, versus standalone DataGrip as an IDE?
As I said before, there is no difference nearly at all. Some things are different. For example, the basic thing I actually forgot to show, if you want to find a table, in PyCharm, you press Command O, and this is the go-to class. And if you type actor here, you don't see tables. But in DataGrip, there is not classes, but tables, and you can find tables here. In PyCharm, to go for any table just out of the blue, you need to go to symbols where there's everything, and you press enter, and you are navigated to the table. For example, this is the small difference, but it happens. So some very, very tiny things are different, but in general, this is the same code base, so everything is just the same.
Right. And in fact, when I switch over to my screen, there's one part that's unique about the syntax of parameters. So last question, but it's not about the product. Someone looked at your profile picture and asked, are you a fan of Clockwork Orange, or is the bowler hat and suspenders a coincidence?
I'm just a fan of clothes of the beginning of 20th century. That's why I like bowler hats and stuff like that.
All right, I'm going to change the screen to me. All right, good. And I will show some things going on more on the Python side. As a reminder, this is the repo with the instructions, the demo I'm about to show, and everything I did to kind of get into this state. Max, you can watch over my shoulder and tell me when I do something wrong or could have done something better. And when someone asks me a really hard question, I'm just going to cry a little and ask you for help if that's okay. All right, so onward. As a quick review of how I got things set up, I have this is done in Docker, and I had a Docker Compose file, and I clicked play to run Docker down here. And so you can see that it's running. And then I went into the database tool and I made a connection to that Docker instance. I know that I'm able to talk to it because when I double click on the actor table, I can browse it. In order to populate that data, I went to my SQL files and I took the schema and ran it in order to get the database set up. And then for the sample data, I right-clicked and I did run, and then I've got all of the sample data set up. A couple of things not really related to the database tool. I right-clicked on the templates. This is a Flask application. I right-clicked on the templates folder, did mark directory as template folder. I made a virtual environment and told PyCharm that this was the project interpreter. It was based on these requirements. I'm just using PsychoPG2 instead of Flask SQL Alchemy because we're writing raw SQL instead of using the ORM. I think I have, let's see, template language. All right, template language. And in Python, I set this as the template language for this project, Jinja 2. Since this is a Flask application, here's my Flask app, and I made a run config that was of type, well, I'll show it this way. I did run, edit configurations. I added a configuration of type Flask server, and I set it up to be module name of app with an application export of app. So this is now, is it running? No, it's not. So I'm going to run the Flask application. It's connected to the database. I'm going to click on this link to browse it. Now we have a web view of what Max was just showing. I can go to the actors table. I can list the actors and go to a specific actor. So that's just kind of to get set up to talk a little bit about DataGrip and the database tool in a full stack application. What we can see is here is a raw query that I'm doing. I'm executing it. I'm getting one result, and then I'm rendering a template. As soon as I start typing something like x equals select, etc., it's going to know that we're in SQL. If something goes wrong, I can go in the string, Alt-Enter, and set it to a language injection if there wasn't a language injection. As I type in here, I'm going to get autocomplete for SQL stuff. Well, let me go to this one. Oh, I should have mentioned dialect. I can set what is the dialect of my SQL for the project, a particular file, or globally. Back to this, I can do things like go to the table and I can navigate to it, and it shows what Max showed before by going to the kind of DDL specification of it, or I can do F4 and browse to the table and get the table browser on that. So that's pretty cool. As I'm typing, I'm going to get autocomplete. And I could, for example, hit enter and it will autocomplete on that, or I can command control space space and get all the possible completions. This also can apply to the table name stuff. So for example, Max showed the quick fix before of expanding the columns instead of doing just the star. So I can.
You have an unresolved now ACTOC, and there is no table of this.
Oh, yep. Thank you. All right, expand the column list. So instead of star, and then I can Command Z to go back to the way that it was previously. I can execute a query. So for example, I'm sitting in this query. I want to see what it's going to look like. I will first do this one that doesn't have a parameter. And I can run the query in the console. And I will choose to run it in a new console. And I see select star from actor, and this, or select those columns from actor. What happens if I want something that has a parameter, so it has a where clause on it that expects to come in via %s. I'll do the same thing. I'll do the same thing, run the query in a console. I'm doing new session because I'm running the EAP and it has a bug on reusing an existing one. And I'll say for 19 and execute. and I see the query that matches that result. So I got a nice dialogue that was friendly about prompting me for all of the parameters that I need. And then finally, as Max was showing, I could go to a column and decide Control T, refactor. I don't want that column name. I want it to be first name without an underscore. It will give me a preview of the SQL it's going to do when I click refactor. It's going to go and change all my SQL files as well as my table. Let's prove it by going to the table and looking at the columns, and first name has been changed. So that's a quick tour of how the SQL support from DataGrip is integrated into a Python project in PyCharm, so that right in the middle of your Python code, you've got a string and it's SQL, and it's like you turned into DataGrip right in the middle of PyCharm, right in the middle of your Flask code. So I'll go over and take a look for any questions. If you can think of, Max, is there anything that I should have shown about the Python support?
I don't know. Maybe just you need to mention that, okay, if there is a SQL inside the string and the PyCharm doesn't understand it, you can just explicitly make a language injection. So you can tell PyCharm, hey, this is SQL, and that will be possible.
Yeah, you can go up to any string in PyCharm and inject a language into it with Alt-Enter. And sometimes, though, it automatically detects what the language should be. I mentioned this about the %s, and let's see if I get this right. Is it parameter? Yes, database user parameters. Here is the way that DataGrip and each of the IDEs can say, here's what we're looking for in a string to determine the token that is going to be prompted for and replaced when the string is executed and sent to the SQL engine. So in all of this, we have some things that are common to all, some things are common just to Python, and you can teach it yourself, right? Max, is there any limitation to this?
I don't know.
So out of the box, it should be able to support most of the formats that you would expect to see. All right, I'm going to go and take a look at some more questions. Max, this is a pretty good one because it gives you a chance maybe to talk a little bit under the hood. Autocomplete. Let's say I've got a whole bunch of databases connected, a whole bunch of columns, a whole bunch of symbols all over the place. Is there any best practice for keeping the autocomplete responsiveness fast, specifying schema or scope or anything like that?
So the question is, it's not fast?
Yes.
Okay, maybe we'll need to analyze it, because how it actually works. We index the whole database you have, and when we complete code, we use only this index. So for example, if you will lose the connection with your database, autocomplete will work anyway. We don't care about your database in the moment we complete code. We care about only our index. So it must be quite fast, but in case if it's not very fast, please report it to us, because it has nothing to do with the size of your database or with the connection quality. It has only to do, it's only about our indexing. So again, please report it to us if something is really not fast with the completion. Yeah, we need to know about that. That's not very common.
I've seen you give demos, I think, that talk a little bit about scope support and other ways to kind of look at a subset of the universe.
Yeah.
Can this thing up here?
Yeah, but this is just a search bar. But if you want the particular schema to be completed for the code, you can go to resolution scopes. You can just try it yourself. So just go to settings and type the resolution scopes, and there will be just a list. So I think by default it's empty. Map any file, any Python file or any script or anything to the particular schema. So if you want this one schema to be used in this particular file, just map them here and everything will be fine.
All right, that's a heck of an answer. Okay, let's see. Question for me: when we refactor the SQL in the database to change the column name, does it change the Python code? No, it doesn't. It's an interesting question for the PyCharm team. I should look and see if there is a ticket already for that. The challenge will be when you put ORMs, object relational mappers, in between, we would have to learn basically Pony and SQL Alchemy and all those other possible things in between. And this one's for you, Max. If you rename a column in a test environment, is there an easy way to record what would be needed, I guess the DDL, to do the same in production?
I think there is no way to do this now.
You have the log, right? You have a log that shows all the SQL that's being sent over, right?
Yeah, that's maybe now that's not super handy, but yeah, that's also possible. When you will run this refactoring, every DDL will actually be placed into the SQL log. So you go to the SQL log, you find this bunch, and you will run it against your new database. But I agree this is not very handy, so we can think about it. But what we are doing, what we are thinking, and I think it will come some time that you will be able just to compare to schemas. You are already able to compare to schemas, but it works only in simple cases. But we want to build the proper support for comparing, so you will be able to compare to schemas and to run the script, which makes them completely the same. So maybe that's the case.
All right, on to some more questions. There's a question about SQL and Jinja 2 support. I do have Jinja 2 templates in here. So for example, an actor, but it's nothing specific to the SQL. It's just the data that was unpacked from the query and passed into the template. So I passed in these values. I don't think it's good to do SQL in Jinja 2. That's really not what it's meant for. Let's see.
But by the way, can I add one new thing to the previous question? Sure. When you actually rename the column, and when there is a button preview, I used it when I was showing, and I just discovered that there is a small button open in console. So actually, this script can be just opened in console but not run. And of course, after you open this script, it's possible to run it against several databases.
Okay. All right. Good. Here's another question for you about we don't have time to show it today. Subqueries on joins and things like that. Do you have any examples in the DataGrip site or in the DataGrip help?
So I didn't get the question.
Subqueries on join.
Oh, okay. So what's the question is?
They just wanted to see some examples on it. Actually, I think you did have it. Did you have a nested query in your example earlier?
We had joins, we had subqueries, but I don't think we had subqueries on join. But that's like, I mean, what's the question is, can we highlight them in proper way? Yes, we can. But okay. I don't know what's the.
And I guess you can detect and put warnings in for syntax violations, perhaps, and stuff like that.
Yeah, we always will. Yeah, of course, we'll highlight this index properly, and if you have some compilation mistakes, we'll highlight these mistakes in advance, of course.
There was a point, someone made a point about the previous question about pandas, that pandas does have support for getting data from SQL Alchemy. Someone asked a question about, for someone who's a complete beginner, about how Docker and Flask works in PyCharm. That is too big a scope for this, but we have a quite good tutorial in the PyCharm help. This is one that most of our IDEs should have a better answer for. Max, I'll see if you have a story for this. If I have a bunch of connections already set up in DataGrip, is there an easy way to share those connections in one of the other IDEs without having to recreate all the connections?
Yes, there are several ways. The first thing you can do, you can go to the data source properties, and there is one small button on the top, Make Global. And this actually means that this data source will be seen from all the other IDs and projects. And also, there is a possibility to just copy and paste your data source. You select the data sources you need, you go to the context menu, database tools, copy data source to clipboard. So you just copy, and you have the XML with this information in your clipboard, and then in the other IDE, you just paste it. So it can be the IDE of the other machine, and you can send this via messenger to your colleague, doesn't matter. So yeah, copy pasting process is possible.
Huh. All right, I would have said no chance. Glad I asked you. We will make this the last question. There's a question about using Jinja, which is a Python templating system in SQL. I didn't understand correctly what the person wanted, but he wrote back. And it's about having a sub-language in a language injection. So if I've got some SQL and they have some looping in it using a templating language, whether it's Jinja 2 or handlebars or underscore or anything else, I don't think we have support for saying this is SQL except for this part, which is handlebars.
Yeah, we don't have it. Yeah, so now we cannot do this.
All right. Okay, I will switch over to getting us out of here since we're a little bit over on time. Max, you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
The only one, if you feel that we didn't answer your question properly, or if you have another one, please write at datagrip@jetbrains.com. So I read this email every day, and I will do my best to help you.
That's very generous.
Very much
also, they can do Twitter, which I'm highlighting the your Twitter account.
Yeah, it's also possible, of course.
That way other people can see it as well.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks, Max, for taking the time to talk with us about DataGrip, the awesome, magical DataGrip in the world of SQL development. If any of you have any questions later, please don't hesitate to reach out to us by email or social media. If you'd like to get more information on PyCharm, please go to our website at jetbrains.com/PyCharm or /DataGrip. We'd love your feedback on this webinar, so please feel free to contact us on Twitter or in the after webinar survey. We read those things. We try to learn from them and do better in the future. So fill in the survey, let Max know how he did, let us both know what we could do better. The recording will be made available on our YouTube channel soon. If you haven't already, please check out our PyCharm blog. You can find up-to-date PyCharm news about releases. November's a big month, and other kinds of events, in addition to educational resources. So for example, the recording of this webinar will be published there in a few days. We'll also provide some additional links and information from the presentation. Thanks everyone for staying to the end. Thank you for all the great questions. Thank you, Max, for joining us, and hope everyone has a nice day.
Thank you very much.